Ready to go? Are we rolling? Great, well, welcome everybody. Hello, how are you doing? I'm Aaron Julian, Chair of the Planning Board, Paul Waleska, Kyle Carter here, and we've got a couple of items on the agenda tonight. Note, there's a public hearing on Helen Crow's application for a proposed shoreline stabilization project at 34 Secret Road, and there's also an application by Mike McKee for a proposed retail store on South Road in the lot across from the Slow Bell. So just so we're all on the same page, you understand how we're going to run things. We'll start with the Helen Crow application. The applicant will present the application. After the applicant is done, the board will ask questions of the applicant to the extent there's any questions remaining. The public will then have an opportunity to speak, and I ask that you please just your comments come up here when you're speaking, or essentially where this board is, and shove it out of the way if you need some space. And then ask the board a question. And the applicant will have an opportunity to respond to the questions. And if you can please direct your responses to us, that would be helpful. But at the close of that, we'll close the public discussion, then we'll deliberate and take it from there. We'll reopen the public hearing if we need to ask additional questions if we run into an issue that requires some answers that we don't have. And that's basically it. So thank you for coming. And with that, I'll turn it over to the first item, which is the Helen Crow application. And if you could please, when you come up, introduce, just say who you are. That would be helpful.
Good evening. My name is Peter Beagle. I'm Land Design Solutions, landscape architectural and site planning firm in Cumberland. With me here tonight is the owner, Helen Crow, and our contractor would be building the wall, Maine Coast Protection. That's Robert and Nolan Anderson. So we were here in May and went through a pre-application presentation, kind of an initial warm up to this meeting. The project site is 34 Secret Road, tax map 103, lot 68. It's a 2.85 acre parcel. We are talking about 120 feet of shoreline stabilization for this eroded bluff area. And this is being undermined and slumping off along the bottom here. The house is between 9 and can't see my dimension here, 9 and 20 feet from, the top of the block. So we've got a, kind of a significant, problem that we were trying to avoid by stabilizing this bluff. We have, done quite a bit of investigation. We had the parcel, this all surveyed. We have the mean high tide, mean high water mark. We've got the highest astronomical tide line. We've investigated, through FEMA to know that we have a VE zone, which is a, zone of, high wave action. There's a base flood elevation with that high wave action of 27 feet. We have a highest astronomical tide line of 6.9 feet. The mean high water line is 4.35 feet. We've investigated the beginning by habitat maps. So we know we have some, there's eelgrass and some wading bird habitat, but that is 100+ feet off shore. If you look at the map and you can zoom in and it shows the blue and the gray areas, and I actually have been asked about that, so I brought a map just to kind of show you. Oh, thank you.
With the link right as well.
Thank you. If anybody from the audience wants to, we'll leave a copy up here for you to look at.
Kind of shows where our parcel is, and then you can see the dark blue and the gray that's all offshore. I also was asked about the letter from the Maine Historical Commission, and we have reached out to them, and they concluded there will be no historic properties, architectural or archaeological affected by this proposed undertaking. And I'll just give you a focus on that letter as well.
Thank you.
The other thing I should say is we reached out to, or Helen worked with the onshore folks, or our shore folks, and they did an assessment, and we've tried to incorporate some of their recommendations into the site, as in the note on your plan, note number 6, contractor to place soil in pockets between the upper 2 rows of revetment rocks. And then the soil would be planted with different plants and vegetation, so that we soften and get some vegetation in the upper 2 rows of rocks. So we're proposing, I'm going to switch this board around so you can see a section of what we're proposing. We're proposing that we start at the existing grade is elevation of 7. The rocks are buried. They're either buried like this, or they're on bedrock. They're drilled and pinned to the bedrock, and then we go up with the rock up to elevation 21. So that's approximately 14 feet of rock with the first or the upper 2 rows with the vegetation pockets in there, and then from elevation 21 up to the top and over the top of the bank is all plantings. So we've used native coastal salt tolerant plantings for that. Better shots of that, and that's these will be, that's the planted area. So we've got a solid planting all along the top. We've got some trees that are needing to be removed that are in the eroded area down here, and those trees are replaced up at the top. When we left here last time, you folks had a couple questions for us. You had asked about why an Army Corps permit was not required, and that was because even though we're showing little pockets of work being done below the highest astronomical tide, we're not proposing any work below the mean high water mark, which is the Army Corps threshold. Another question that you had was, please forward the DEP permit, which we did, and hopefully that made it into your hands for your review. We did request a waiver, and that waiver was not provide 11 hard copies of the application. We provided 4 copies and an electronic PDF. So I believe in talking with staff, we needed to request a waiver for that. And then one of our biggest discussion points was about construction logistics. About the ordinance section that would like materials delivered by barge. And talking with Robert, he's glad to utilize the barge for materials and equipment. Provided that the barge actually can land there based on tide and weather. So we would like the plan B option of if that can't work, that we can land at the stone pier and bring things overland. And Robert's here to answer any questions if you folks have it, but he's investigating utilizing a barge for that work. And any materials, equipment that come over would be landed on temporary pads. I think that's we did provide, we went through the standards and the way we responded to the ordinance standards, hoping that might be helpful in answering any questions how we believe we meet the ordinance requirements. And I think that's it for our presentation.
Great, thank you. And just to clarify for the folks in the audience, this was permitted, this is permit by rule, but from the state.
Yes.
It's already been received.
Yes, so
permit
they
by
have
rule
reviewed,
from-
they've
from the
reviewed.
Department of Environmental
Yes.
Protection.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's all for the moment. I'll turn to the board and see if you have any questions. Paul.
I don't, I thank the applicant for a very complete package that they submitted during the pre-application meeting, as well as the detailed follow-on communication that was provided to us before this meeting. So as addressed by the presenter, everything that was asked a month ago has been answered in advance tonight. I don't have any specific questions. Thank you.
I don't have questions.
And I don't have any questions. If, as Paul said, you know, the materials provided, presented to the board were very complete and it would have all the information we need to answer. So at this point, I'm going to turn to members of the public and see if anybody would like to come up and speak to this application. If you do, come on up to where that is and stand there. Come on up. That'd be great.
I
Thank you.
didn't know I was gonna be the public speaker, but,
Okay,
I am a property, Skylar and I own the property 4 houses down.
Can you see your name?
I'm Linda Brandt, we live in 11 Clark Street, we're summer complaints, you know. So, and I'm not complaining, I'm just going to point out something. My concern is that this property is in the middle of a large cove. And if this is the only property that is going to have stabilization and riprap, that what is that going to, how is that going to affect the properties on either side and going down the cove? I know there's been a lot of studies about this, about how it's scientifically simple. Where does the water go? It comes up against this, where does it go? Depending on the tide, depending on the swell, depending on the storm. And we won't be as affected as we're 4 properties down, but we have small pieces of property there because we were all part of the original development there for cottages. So we have small pieces of property that if you go down the shore towards us, which is the right of the Helen's property, We all have wooded embankments, which are being reseeded. Hers is more reseeded than ours. And then you go to the other side and you have a gully, which has, would have perhaps more water coming into it. What would it do to the gully? Into the stream situation there. And, I just have those questions about where the water is going to go that comes up against this. And how is it going to affect the rest of the embankments? Stabilization.
Great, thank you. Any, I guess, we're gonna handle this, I'm gonna let you answer the items rather than build them all up. I think it'll be easier. And so if you'd like to respond
Yes.
to the concerns that were just raised.
So, we, geotechnical engineer that was, visited the site. Did look at how, that's always a major concern, how are we gonna tie the ends of the wall in so that that does not happen? And so you can see how the land comes, you know,
Rebecca stand on the other side.
To the audience, listen.
all right?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. So. There's a bit of an inlet up here, so we're wrapping the wall in right here. And down here, there is the drainage culvert that goes out, and we're tying the wall in prior to that. So one of the DEP requirements is that you end the wall 5 feet before the property line. But in both these instances, because of this, the way the landform is, helps us on both sides. The other thing is the way DEP requires you to step this wall back. It works a little bit as an energy dissipator, so that the walls hit that, and a vertical wall, it, you know, bounces off. But on the slope wall, it rides up these slope rocks, dissipating some of the energy. So that's the kind of the basic science behind it. But we did take a lot of care in how this wall was tied in to those two ends.
And what kind of plant material are you going to have? That was another question I had.
Yeah, so we have all coastal area native plants that are salt tolerant, so all coastal salt tolerant plant. You want them, you look at the names.
Yes,
So we have Shadwell service berry for the trees. We have a black gum Shadwell service berry for trees. We have bearberry, compact plethora, common juniper, goldfinger bush, quinklefoil, and castor rose for the plants. So a lot of the plants come from the plant list, the Casco Bay
yes.
study plant
There's
list.
some-
Yes.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who has a question of the applicant? Who would like to speak?
Donna Damon, 13 Ferguson Road. I'm about 3 houses from Helen. So, we are supportive of this because of the condition of the bank. There is a map that's being circulated here that I'm not sure what it's about, but having lived in that area my whole life, it's not very accurate. When you find tune of where shellfish beds are, I'm just throwing that out there. But anyway, we are supportive, and I certainly understand Linda's concerns. But we don't want people's houses to go over the bank. And I think it's one, and I'm gonna address this with the selectmen at some point, that we need to be thinking about what happens when somebody's house does go over. And who's responsible, because as a shorefront property owner, I do not want I have neighbors who are 5 feet from the edge of the bank, who have no money and cannot afford to do this. And so it's a potential problem. We're all gonna have to be over it. But anyway, I'm supportive of the Helen project.
Thank you. Anybody else? Would anybody else like to speak?
So I have, my name is, Greg Cohen. I'm the property owner, Jennifer and I are the property owner, right, here, with this, right beside them. The house, and you referred to the, gully, which is the runoff, water. Now, since the wall is here, what's that gonna do to my property here? And is it gonna interfere with the drainage? Is it gonna interfere with my property as the water? As the energy dissipates from a storm or, so I'm just kind of a little bit, I just wondered about that there.
We believe there's gonna be minimal impact, that the water, we're not blocking the gully, so we're not impacting any of that drainage, we're wrapping around here prior to that. So we're rounding that corner. And we're leaving that gully area open.
Peter.
Yep.
Sorry, can you explain, I don't even understand, the rounding the corner, is that beneficial and how is it beneficial? Can you explain that?
Well, it allows the water to flow in here instead of it just banging off the rock, that it's got, farther to travel in here, so, all kind of about energy dissipation.
I was gonna ask, the site already has a significant amount of ledge.
Very true.
Can you highlight where some of the bigger portions are? And perhaps the angles or what's gonna happen with the reinforcement?
Yeah, so the reinforcement. The reinforcement's will be drilled into that bedrock.
I meant across the face, there's already a significant amount of ledge
I
there.
can speak on that.
Yeah.
I know excited. So what's going on, big Robert has. So what's going on in this, because of this has been all eroded on the back, on the lower end, this is actually made a face. So it's actually almost a straight face right now. So us bringing this ledge out, the riprap out in front, this is gonna dissipate the energy. So we're actually creating a better situation what's going on right now. Right now, there's more of a ledge face that's going across, and so when that rock, that's gonna go both ways. When we bring that riprap down, bring that more at an angle like this, the waves are gonna roll up and roll back down. And that's one reason it's gonna actually help on both properties, both sides, on both fields. Now, you do have erosion, on your corner already there. I've looked at your property right next door.
You're talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I've been there forever.
Yeah, well, it was that erosion, that's been, I saw it where it was right in there. And what I would suggest is, this is gonna roll in there. I don't think it's gonna make it any worse than it is right now on the wave action, because it was gonna slow down.
So you don't think that the solid wall there of rock is gonna further erode onto my property?
I think it's gonna erode worse without it. Because we're putting this at an angle. Right now, it's at a more vertical.
Okay.
That's what's going on.
Then where's the water from?
It goes back out in the ocean, rolls out. That's as good as we can do, is you can't make it any more different than what we're doing with the roll up and back out. That's how they dissipate it. Right now, it's almost vertical. The ledge, because all the soil and everything in front of it got washed out.
So our property, which is the next one up from Gregory, well, that washout that you're talking about there is partly, I mean, it's on partly on my property or not, it's been eroding right on every long ledge.
If you could, if you're gonna ask a question, if you could identify yourself just so we have that,
Oh,
that'd be
you
great,
guys
thank you.
over Here and here, so there's two different properties. I know.
And there's ledge in front of ours.
Yeah.
Oh, you're higher.
Yeah.
And it's. I'm sure the ledge goes up higher underneath the vegetation.
One of our question, one other question, we have a lot of ledge right in front of our.
Yeah, if people, because people who are watching on YouTube can't hear what you're saying unless you come up
Sure.
and speak up here. If you have trouble getting to this point,
Greg Maloney.
let me know.
So my house is right here.
Yeah.
And we have the gully that goes down through here. And then as you come around the corner, we have so this last big storm that caused a havoc of 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
You could see where, what happened was, we had we have a lot of ledge in front of our house. Several ledges, one especially low tide, you see it, and then there's a ledge that comes up, our lawn actually comes down to the, close to the ocean, and there's a big ledge, so we didn't have any problem from there. But there was a little bit, in one area where there was no ledge, it did eat it out, but so we felt no of the effects.
Yeah,
So my question was, is it going to, be like doing this, is this gonna? Well, more of a problem for that corner where I don't have the protection.
well, you got the ledge protection here.
Yeah.
The energy going up, go back down.
Okay,
But one thing for yours is, like you said, you got a lot that comes all the way down. So the biggest thing that we found out on all these studies.
Yeah.
Is lawn going down over the edges. Because what happens, you get the rain systems that rain all summer.
Yeah.
So that year that we lost so much soil in all these projects. Remember how wet it was that summer? We didn't have a summer. It rained, it erected them out, softened all the soils, and then we got these massive storms that came in. And it eliminated and wiped out the soil in a lot of people, and that's why most of the plantings that we go and advise people, we always say, need a nice buffer planting there. And that'll absorb the water coming down over the bank. The other thing, because you don't want such a small amount of shoreline in here, and then you got the neighbor next door. It is a very simple permit you could get, if you wanted to do it, while we were down there, it would save you a ton of money going through the whole situation.
Here, so let's just start.
I don't know why you say that.
Let's focus on the application. Yeah,
Well, maybe we talk about it. It's in the area, that's the knowledge.
all right, thank you. Any other questions on the application? Questions on the application?
Mark is the ledge area. So,
Yeah.
so that's all ledge, that's ledge, ledge.
And this one protects that property, that's in here too.
Any other questions about the application?
It's kind of a question. Okay, so I'm Helen Crowe, I'm the property owner. I completely understand everybody's concerns regarding the project. I have a little bit of concerns regarding the project. And I don't know, Peter, if you spent time tonight, we kind of were hoping to do another option in terms of addressing this on our property. I didn't go into this hoping to do the rock. I forget how you say it. Riprap. I think that wasn't my intention, but I think based on the engineering studies. Which the information is in the packet, and I don't know if you went over that, but because of the wave action and a number of different things. They kind of meet the criteria for doing the riprap according to the state of Maine R-Shore program. So it's kind of, a hard decision to make because it's not something that we take lightly. It is a significant investment of funds. And we want to ensure that our investment will last a while, which we have no guarantees, and it's not recommended that the other strategies be used. But I completely understand everybody's concerns and have the same anxiety. So I hope the engineers know what you're doing.
Right, yeah, as we discussed at the last meeting, the fact also presented the fact that they looked into alternative options using a green approach, but the wave action and energy on that were not conducive to a lasting solution, and so that's why they ended up here. if there's no other questions. All right, I'm gonna close the public hearing and turn to the board for deliberations. I'll just start in. And then I've gone through all materials and appreciate the questions from the members of the public that confirmed essentially what was in the materials already. And because they were good questions and questions that I think we all had, how's it gonna work? And so based on that, my sense is that this meets all the criteria of the project, and what I'd like to do is just walk through them all right now. For folks, and so the first is a number of criteria here. So if you haven't been through this before, there's a number of separate findings we need to make, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So in connection with the section 504C1 safe and healthful conditions, I would find that the project will maintain safe and healthful conditions because aside from the fact that there's no aspect of the project that would create unsafe conditions, there's also the inclusion of on-site erosion control certified individual during construction activity. And so I think they meet that criteria.
Vote on each one.
I guess we could go ahead and just vote on each one right now. If there's any discussion on that.
Yeah, so move.
All right, all those in favor? Okay, it's unanimous. Next item, section 504C2, water pollution, erosion and sedimentation. I would find that move that or find that the planning board believes that the project wouldn't result in water pollution, erosion or sedimentation is evidenced by a number of factors above, involving the inclusion of site erosion control certified individuals who would be monitoring the construction. But in addition, the permit by rule process that is how the applicant got its permit from the state. They have to abide by a number of requirements involving erosion control and vegetative stabilization, and abide by those requirements to avoid erosion of soil into the surface waters. And you heard the applicant describe a number of the plants that were asked about that would be included. In addition, and this gets at another item that was raised, because the town select board has expressed an interest in encouraging nature-based solutions. Their engineering evaluation is dated December 2nd, 2025, addressed a living shoreline alternative and rejected that approach as not a viable option for the site for various reasons, including the height of the flood elevation, the presence of shallow bedrock, exposure of the site to high wave energy, and a low score on the Maine Geological Survey living shoreline decision support tool, indicating the living shoreline was not likely suitable. So that's my proposed.
Good work, yes.
I guess that's a motion. The second, right? All those, any discussion? All those in favor? All right, let's go right to the motion. I move that section 504 C3 wastewater disposal is met because the project adequately provides for disposal of all wastewater as that term is defined in the shoreline zoning ordinance. Is in that the project will generate no wastewater because there's no new buildings or plumbing fixtures, and the provision is thus not applicable to the project.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Next item is section 504C4 spawning grounds and wildlife habitat. I move that the planning board find that the project will not have an adverse impact on spawning grounds, fish, aquatic life, bird or other wildlife habitat, as evidenced by the materials submitted by the applicant, including the fact that the permanent structures are located above mean high water applicant indicated in research, that beginning with habitat mapping and found, that although there are some nearby intertidal habitats, including some moderate value, habitats, and other, that those are showing to be some distance from the area where the stabilization project is proposed. And, so,
Second.
okay,
In favor?
any discussion? All those in favor? All right, and thank you for that map, and, that was helpful. Section 504C5, shore cover and visual actual access. I find that the planning board, hold that the project will conserve, shore cover and visual as well as actual point of access to the inland and coastal waters, as the bank is on stable bluff and currently eroding, losing vegetation. And the plan will preserve as much vegetation as possible, and revegetation plan incorporates salt tolerant native plants as described. And will, where possible, incorporate appropriate plantings in the revetment as he also described.
Move to accept.
Right, any discussion? All those in favor? Right. Section 504C6, archaeological and historical resources. Based on the application, the planning board, I know the planning board finds that the project will protect archaeological and historic resources as designated in the comprehensive plan. As the application indicated, that they investigated the site and received a letter from the Maine Historical Preservation Commission stating that they concluded there are no historic properties, architectural or archaeological affected by the project. And that letter that's up there if anybody wants to take a look at it.
Move to accept the findings of that.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Next item 504C7, commercial fisheries and marine activities. Planning board finds that the project will not adversely affect the existing move that the planning board finds that the project will not adversely affect existing commercial fishing or maritime activities in a commercial fisheries and maritime activities district, based on the fact that Coastal Water Commission raised no issues with the project, and the fact that the project structure will be located above mean high water, and the fact that the project is not located in a commercial fisheries maritime activities district.
Move to accept the findings of that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Next item is section 504C8, floodplain development. And I think that based on the application materials that we should find that the planning project will avoid problems associated with floodplain development. And that in addition, the project anticipates the transportation of materials by barge, although as the applicant indicated, may be necessary to transport some materials or to the site by truck in the event that tides, water, elevation, or weather makes it transportation not feasible. The barge transportation site will require, I believe, it will require code enforcement officer to issue a floodplain permit, I think, for any landing for the word commences on that point.
I move to accept the findings of that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Section 504C9, conformance with ordinance. Planning board, I think, should find that the project is in conformance with the provisions of sections 204 and 300 based on the application materials provided.
I move to accept the findings of that.
I'll second that.
All right, any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor? All right, now we're in section 308. So section 308.4, access from shore on appropriate soils to prevent erosion. I believe that the applicant demonstrated that the proposed shoreline stabilization project is located entirely above the mean high water line as shown by the application and maps and specifically shoreline stabilization plan and notes showing where the structures are, and there's no permanent structures will be located above at or above mean high water. application is indicated that no portion of the permanent structures would be located in a wetlands. The planning board finds that the standards of 308, so this is, my belief that, that section 308.4A doesn't apply to the application because no portion of that, the structure extends over or beyond the normal high water line of a body, submerged lands or wetland, and thus it doesn't apply to the structure. In the alternative, even if it were to be applicable, I find that the applicant has satisfied the standard of the section based on the material submitted, including the fact that that appropriate vegetation will be placed and soils replaced.
I move to accept the findings of fact.
Right, and so. Favor. Section 308.4B, no interference with natural beach areas. Planning board finds that the standard 308.4 do not apply to the application as my proposal, as evidenced by the maps presented by applicants that let me start again. This section, once again, doesn't apply as no section is beyond or below the normal high water line of a body of water, submerged lands or wetland. Thus, it doesn't apply. But even if it did, I believe the applicant is satisfied that standards information based on the material submitted, including the fact that no permanent structure will exist below mean high water.
I move to accept the findings of fact.
Second,
Right.
discussion and vote.
Discussion, vote. All right. The next section, 308.4C, similarly, I don't think the section applies because it's not below, this main structure is not below normal high water, but even if it were to apply, I find that the applicant satisfied the standards of the section based on material submitted, including the fact that no permanent structure will exist below mean high water, and the fact that the temporary presence in the floodplain would be done pursuant to a permit issued by the code enforcement officer, and any materials provided or placed below mean high water would be placed on temporary pads.
I move to accept the findings of facts of 308.4C.
Second,
Right, any discussion? All those in favor? Structural dimension and compatibility. Similarly, I don't think this the provision applies because it's all located above mean high water, but even if it did, I find that it did satisfy the standards based on all the materials submitted, including the fact that the area is a residential area. And this has been permitted, state permits for the armoring of the shore and other residential areas of the island. I also think that the applicant has demonstrated that the project would be appropriate and it would help dissipate the force of the water in an effective way that is an improvement on the current situation. And finally, that the dimension of the structure is consistent with the size of the existing bluff, and it's no larger than it has to be in order to stabilize the project. And finally, I note that it's a vegetated wall and it's consistent with existing uses in the area.
I move to accept the findings of fact of 308.4B.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Section 308 E, F, and G, structures built on other structures. This section simply doesn't apply because the structure that is being permitted would be built is not going to be built on another structure.
I move, I move to support findings of fact for 308 E, F, and G.
Okay, Paul,
second,
all right, any discussion? All those in favor?
so it's E, F, and G.
Yeah, E, F, and G. Then there's section 308.4 H, lighting, and aside from the fact that I don't think this section applies, the fact is that there's no lighting proposed for anything in this project.
Move to accept the findings of fact for 308.4 H.
Second,
Right, any discussion? All those in favor?
For the next one.
Section 308.4, under interference with rights to fish fowl and navigation. Again, I don't believe this applies. Because it's all above, and to the land side of normal high water, but even if it did apply. I'd say that satisfy the standards of this section based on all the materials submitted. And including the fact that there'll be only temporary use of the floodplain if they bring in materials on the by barge. And no structure will extend below mean high water. And so won't unduly interfere with the intertidal zone or anybody's established colonial or for fishing, fouling and navigation.
I move to accept 308.4 I.
Second that.
All right. Okay. Is it any discussion unanimous? Sorry, it's straight. Item 308.4J, easement, multiple property use. Again, I don't think this section applies because everything's above normal water line. But even if it were to apply, they've satisfied the section because this will not serve more than one property, and so the provisions in applicable.
I move to accept findings of fact 308.4J.
Second that.
Right, any discussion? All those in favor? Regarding section 308.4K, federal and state permits, again, I do not believe this section applies as there's no section of the permit structures below mean high water, but even if it did apply, the planning board, I think, should find that the applicant satisfied the standards of this section, because they obtained and provided us copies of the MDEP permits regarding the project, and if any other permits are needed for floodplain permit, for example, for temporary use of the floodplain to bring materials in by barge, that would be permit issued by the CEO.
I move to accept findings of fact for 308.4K.
Second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Vegetation, section 308.4L, vegetation. Again, I don't think these provisions apply. But in the alternative, if they did, then I believe they've satisfied the provisions of this. And as I think we heard, there is significant revegetation of the bank that will happen with all vegetation. And all of the MDEP vegetation requirements and the permit rule provisions are extensive, and they'll have to comply with those.
I move to accept findings of fact 308.4L.
Right.
Second that.
Right. Any discussion?
Yeah, just a brief comment.
Sure.
We hadn't addressed this. If you need to go over the banking, this section covers your 12-foot width.
Right.
Okay, to address that. It also covers the removal of the trees that you were talking about before, Peter. Okay, so it's in 308 in our ordinance, not in 304.
Any further discussion?
No.
All those in favor? And one more item to vote on for the facts, for section 308.4M, public notification. You can find that the notice requirement of section 308.4 to the extent it's applicable was met with various newspaper advertisements that were sent in notices that were attached to. Sorry.
I move to accept 308.4M.
Second one.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, so, and then we come to decision. So, conclusion slide, I say that we've received and held a public hearing on the shoreline stabilization project proposed by Helen Crow. And we should approve the application for work to be performed at 34 Secret Road, Sheboygan Island, Maine, map I-03, lot 68, to stabilize the shoreline with riprap and native plantings, subject to the condition that the applicant or its representatives will notify the town scheduled regarding activities and have one physical meeting with the town of Sheboygan Island code enforcement officer prior to beginning work to coordinate the and monitor the construction process.
And move that we accept that.
Sorry,
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? All right,
thank you.
and there's.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone for the comment. And with that, we'll move on to the next application. The application of Mike McKee for a retail store. We'll give it a moment for everyone to set out.
When that's on it,
Yeah.
You only do it.
Right.
Carol can see it going on today. I think Thailand doesn't offer bank.
Yeah.
And you're seeing actually constructing. And that's how they manage everything, and then as they leave, they actually.
I've got them all. I wrote them out. So, if you know, and adjusted things depending on what people that are on the fly, change it.
No, it's very minor.
Right. Great. You ready to go? Ready. All right, all right, well, let's get going on the next application. The next application, the application of Michael McKee for a proposed retail store on South Road on the lot located at map I-03, lot 1, and take it away.
Hi, everybody, I'm Mike McKee. I'm a year rounder. I live with my parents. My business partner, Zach Serrano, couldn't be here today. He's down in Florida doing an internship. But we both are senior business majors at Miami University. And when we heard that there wasn't going to be a store this season, we got together, we made a plan. We made a plan to open a store. We're gonna call it the Eagle Mart. So we brainstormed, we spreadsheeted out the initial costs, we scraped together some tuition money, and we bought a shed. So bought a shed, we leased the land, brought the shed out, painted it, built a ramp, built the shelves, built the counter. My mother came and kept bottom. After that, we figured out the point of sale system, it's the cash register, so we'll be able to take credit cards, cash, checks, everything. We plan to be open every single day from 10 to 4:30. In terms of inventory, we spoke to many different distributors up and down Maine. Figured out the logistics of opening a business on an island, you know, getting it dropped on pier and getting the initial inventory in. If anybody has any inventory suggestions, please come to me because I'll get you whatever you want. But yeah, we saw the need and we wanted to apply what we've learned in the business school to help the community, which we both love. And I'm very excited to open up. This has been a great learning opportunity so far. And yeah.
You have permits yet?
Oh, yeah, we got in terms of the state permits, we have the retail food license. We have off-premise liquor license up to 20%, so beer and wine. We also have a tobacco license and we have our sales tax permit. So we are all set in terms of the state to. We're at. Yeah, yes.
Are you all set with your
Yeah,
presentation?
pretty much, yeah.
Well, he's doing the opening presentation, and then I'll get into the technical stuff.
Okay,
Michael, on your retail license, can you explain to everybody what you will be able to offer to the community?
Right, so with the retail food license. It is purely off premises, so it's much like a Gumby's really. So you come in, you pick up your food, it's all prepackaged. Shelf stable food. We're not allowed to make anything and sell it, it's all approved, prepackaged. And ready to eat.
Thank you.
if you have nothing more, why don't you,
Sure.
take it on?
Good job. All right, so while Michael and Zach were finishing up their spring semester and doing finals, I had the pleasure of doing the nitty gritty of this. So we applied for a planning board application April 16th. We came and we met with the planning board, we did a pre-application review, we did that in May. We took any kind of feedback you had, we've been working very closely with the code enforcement officer. And since then, we've made a couple of changes based on recommendations. But quickly going through this is lot I-03-1, it's in the island business zone. We're opening up a retail store, which was one of the allowed uses in the island business zone. It does not require a Board of Appeals approval. And under ordinance waivers requested, we've marked no. But if there's anything that the board has questions about or thinks we need a waiver for, please do. So based on our pre-application meeting with the board and meeting all the requirements thrown at us since then with the code enforcement officer, we don't know if we need any waivers. So if we need one, please consider giving us a waiver. We think we've done our due diligence and meeting all of this stuff. We are not a major site plan. We are a minor site plan. So that simplifies the process. But we have provided right title and interest through the form of deed and also a lease agreement. We provided electronically, but here's a copy of the overall survey that shows the list of information that you need. All setbacks, yards, buffers, boundaries, tax map numbers, the magnetic north thing, who did it, when they did it, signed, sealed, delivered. And we provided the names and addresses by property owners within 500 feet. And I'm sure those proper notices went out. Okay, so under documentation of existing conditions, we said it is the island business. The boundary survey was presented. Because of the nature of this Eagle Mart, we're not involving a bunch of utilities, culverts, well, we've identified that. But there is no water and there is no septic for Eagle Mart. It's not required to sell the prepackaged food. And in the lease, we have the right to access Slowbell for hand washing. And I think what they're working out is if one of them has to go answer nature's call, they'll call the other one in, they'll watch the store, he goes across the street and then comes back. The closest water source for fire protection is the fire pond at the golf course. Michael has provided the narrative describing the proposed project, but if you have any questions right now that you don't think he covered, I'm here to answer them. That's one of your things. The narrative described, was that satisfactory on the operations of how the store is gonna work, when it's gonna be open, all that kind of stuff.
We'll get to what you finish what you're talking about, we'll have the questions.
All right, handling of solid waste, because everything we sell is prepackaged. The only solid waste we would have, or they would have, would be boxes, which would be broken down, put in their car and driven off site. So there's no, you don't have to worry about any critters getting in and eating the garbage and. I'm gonna get into parking in just a second. So I think that's the list in the application of all the relevant stuff. So when we saw you in May, we submitted a site, sketch. It's called a sketch drawing. It's in here, by a sketch. We did that. Since then, Aaron, you asked us some questions and the code enforcement officer had some questions. And then speaking with John from LoSI on where the best entry and exit was, we decided to switch. So the things that we were dealing with the old sketch was the code enforcement officer wanted fabric put down and then our wood chips. So it'd be more stable. So where we now have the parking and it's fully flagged and marked out there, is on an original entrance into the farm. And it is crushed stone. It's on builder's fabric. It supports tractors. In fact, there's 3 tractors right there that get moved out of the way. And we marked it as one Spark parking place. So by ordinance, you need to only have one parking spot for a building this size. There is other places that you can park and we can do beyond the one. But because the ordinance say you need one, we drew it currently for one. The handicap spot, we have a ADA compliant handicap sign, a professional commercial handicap sign. We have modified our doors. Let me start with that. So the code enforcement officer asked us to get a letter from a structural engineer saying that the shed was suitable for seasonal commercial use for building. We found one, he reviewed the plans. We actually went back to the manufacturers and got a set of drawings. And we provided you with the letter that yes, it is suitable. The next thing he asked for was a fire marshal report. So we engaged the fire marshal came over, did his inspection, and we passed his inspection. The third thing he said is because it's a commercial building, we need a state level electrical permit, not a local. So he can't approve it, it has to be at the state level. We applied, were granted that permit, the work was done today, pictures were taken and sent to the state inspector. So that is now complete. After that, code enforcement officer did a walkthrough with us. And he said, or he noticed that, hey, the doors on a commercial building are supposed to be 6 feet 8 inches. Not a normal size door. So for instance, this door is not 6 feet 8 inches. 6 feet 8 inches is up here. So we immediately modified our shed. We cut out the transom window above it. And we have now met that 6 foot 8 inch requirement by 36 inches. He also said, let's make sure this is ADA compliant with a ramp. So we followed a 1 by 20 slope on a ramp. And that is now extending from the shed out to where it meets the level. So we have the very nice long ramp for our shed height of this, but it meets code. And we believe we have now met everything. So I'm sure you have questions about the parking. But if you do, I'm ready.
All right. Anything else or?
You think you need anything? Anything?
Well, I will ask you questions if we have any questions, but is there anything you want to tell us before we jump in?
No, I believe.
I'm sure the parking's good.
Yeah, I believe that we provided all the information required. it's kind of daunting because this can easily become a catch-22 situation. So if you have questions, ask and we'll be ready to answer.
All right, well, thank you.
Sure.
So, I'm gonna. I think I'll start with the board, just to. Amen.
Serve my opportunity.
All right, I'll start it, just because I apologize, because I thought you were the applicant, are you, because it says Mike McKee, and we've been talking to you the whole time. During all the pre-application sessions and during the meetings.
Right.
We're going to things, so, and we've been sending the emails, so are you the applicant or are you?
I
Which-
filled out the application.
Right.
My name's Mike McKee. This is my son who's gonna be running it. His name's Mike McKee.
So who's the applicant?
I'm the applicant.
You're the applicant, okay,
This might. Great.
okay, just want to make sure,
Yep.
okay. That was the first thing. So the second, I just wanted to talk about the parking a second, because in the prior version of things, you had 8 spaces indicated, and you indicated that you were planning to have 8 cars an hour, I think was what you indicated on the material. And that you would have parking on, in the spaces in the old version of things that, is not an issue now. You, sent the new drawing, yesterday. So thank you for that. So I just want to find out a little bit more about that, because right now you're proposing only 1 space in that space. And,
Right.
Where would other people park?
Okay, so the question on here was to estimate during peak hours, the number of cars. So in an hour, we originally estimated 8 cars. But as we thought through it, there's gonna be cars, there's gonna be bicycles, there's gonna be golf carts, there's gonna be ATVs, and there's gonna be people who walk. So for the max customers per hour, we don't think it's gonna be 8 cars. We provided the 1 required parking space, and there is additional parking space around it. But the more detail we put in, the more questions it seems to generate. So like John, where's John? John, do you agree that besides that 1 handicap spot, right next to it, there is multiple places where people could park if there was more than a car?
So that area has a road making fabric. What?
Here,
So the parking area has a road making fabric.
here, John, why don't you come up here, because it is, for people following at home, it'll be easier for them to hear you.
Good evening. So the area where the designated parking area has, road making fabric, wood, gravel, and crushed rock. It's where I put heavy equipment and cars, trucks, boats, and things like that. It's approximately 60 by 35. So it has a lot of capacity in addition to the handicap spot, but the handicap spot that is designated. Pull in and then you turn to the right for the designated handicap spot, but there's a lot more room there. But I mean, if you look at downtown Market, if you look at the hall, if you looked at the church. There's way more parking happening there than what was originally intended. And there's extra parking across the road at the Slow Bell, and there's also extra parking in front of the Eagle Mart and on the side. So. there's a lot.
So Mike, because he's the planner, but so there's extra parking at the slow
There
down
is,
part.
Yeah, I use that whole area where the Eagle Mart is for extra additional parking on large nights during seasonal events, July 4th, things like that, Memorial Day, Labor Day. There's always been parking across the street there.
So beyond the 1 defined handicap space clearly identified as such, how many other parking spaces would you estimate are in close proximity to that?
I mean.
Get your best guess.
16 cars. I
Okay.
mean. I know that there's been more than 20 over there. Yeah, it should be far.
But again, what we've learned through this process is don't offer more than the requirement, because that can kick in a whole
But
bunch
if
of
you
confusion.
offer only 1 designated handicap space,
Yeah,
you have no place else for a non-handicapped person to park. Because they cannot occupy the handicap space. So at some point, you need to say that you have allowed for others.
We have allowed for others.
And I'm just asking for approximately how many others are, you know, in that area. So.
We estimate, I mean, you heard John, up to 16.
Okay. They can hold off on any question, unless you have any other questions. Turn it over to the public to see if there's other questions out there.
No.
Okay, thank you. So, why don't you guys take a seat and we're gonna go to the public and ask the questions. As asked questions, Mike, or Mike, either you get up and answer the questions as they come up, right? So I'll turn it over to the public to come up and just come head on up here and this person.
Formalize.
Yeah, form line out that way. You wanna get- If there's more than, and just if you please identify yourself.
My name is Kathy Benson. I'm now a summer person. I used to live here year round years ago. My husband and I are abutters to the Slow Bell at 194 South Road. And having lived here umpteen years, and we still come here and we still own property, and I really know how the rumor mill works on Chevy. So my biggest question, my biggest concern is the electricity. And from the rumors that I've heard, it's gonna run on a generator 24/7 and not be connected to the grid.
If you could actually ask direct
Oh.
questions, to us, just to make it easier.
Yep.
If you could direct your,
Because I-
just express your concern that it'll run and there'll be a generator.
Yeah,
And so on.
so that's the question, and that's the concern, if it was gonna be on a generator, 24/7, and the noise that would cause for that neighborhood.
All right,
That's
Thank
my
you.
question.
so Mike,
So there is no generator and we have a commercial electrical permit. There was actually electricity at the well. And so we have now properly brought that electricity from the well into the shed. And it's been permitted. No generator.
Thank you.
any other questions?
I'm Jackie Frost, I am a fellow resident, and I just have a practical question. I understand that Mike and Zach are gonna be doing this during the summer, but they're in college, so what happens if, I mean, I'm assuming that this is going to stay open to try to fill the gap at least a little bit until Josh can get his plan in operation for the big store. But what happens when school starts again? How is this gonna stay open year round, I guess is my question.
And so I'll turn that over to the applicant.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so Zach and I are in college and, when the school year starts, we'll close down. This is just a temporary pop-up shop for the summer. Really just trying to fill that gap and no, it's not gonna be open after the school year.
And I'll amend that a little bit so that he doesn't take off to go to college. We will probably stay open no later than mid-September, but we will be selling off that inventory after they leave. So there may be a period where I have to man it, Katie has to man it, or we hire someone else to manage it as we meet the demand and drop off. We are not open year round, we're not open next year. This is a one-time, one season use.
Any other questions?
Nancy, now, are you gonna sell ice cream?
So right now, we are not. So we were planning on it, with that electrical permit, we're gonna make sure the refrigerator stays running 24/7. And then if we take a harder look and find there's extra amperage, we would consider putting it in. But right now, we're just gonna reduce down to refrigerator to be 100% safe.
You gonna sell milk?
Yes, milk, eggs, butter, cheese, vegetables,
Thank you.
all that.
I sell ice cream, small sells.
Yeah.
Who
Hello, my name is Meg Green. I live at 369 South Road. I'm here about 9 months a year. I'm not a year-round resident. And I had a question. The McKees indicated that a number of additional requirements had come up, like fire marshal inspection, commercial electrical permit. Has the code enforcement officer received written confirmation that all of those approvals have been given?
So, in the end, I'll answer this one. I've seen a number of materials in the filings that have been made that have permits in them, but and I can dig that out right now. I've seen copies of the permits, but in terms of the electrical permit, and other permits to me, and we'll discuss these as a board, but those would be part of the certificate of occupancy requirement that the code enforcement officer has to sign off on. And so, for example, the fire marshal's, written fire marshal, permit. That's something that in the past, traditionally, we've made a condition of occupant of the use, which is having the fire marshal written, permit, to open or to function in the new use that's requested. My understanding is that inspections happened, but I don't know the status of the written piece of the permit, but that would be something for the code enforcement officer, in my view, to ensure, and that would be part of our, typically in the past, if we've done an approval, that's been a condition we've made as part of the package. That's,
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that it happened this time around. I appreciate it. Thank you.
that's my,
Yeah. And so I would remind everybody that the purpose of a site planning review, the intention is to protect public health and safety, promote general welfare of the community, and to conserve the environment. So that level of detail, the question that was asked, that is code enforcement. And yes, you can go on the state website right now and find our electrical permit. The fire marshal report has been provided along with our structural engineer report. So the last time I spoke to the code enforcement officer was today. I won't speak for him, but we, I believe, have met all the requirements for certificate of occupancy.
John.
Down the Green 13 Henderson Road. I think that one of our challenges in this community is keeping our young people here and giving them opportunities. And this is a great opportunity for a couple of young people. And also it's serving a need. And we're talking about something that, you know, in my old days would have just happened. And so I think that I'm really glad that they've gone through all the process, because this has been a great learning opportunity for them. You don't get this firsthand opportunity every day. And, you know, and I think we all want ice cream, but we have a full size freezer, so every time we go to town, we buy ice cream. Anyway, so if anybody runs out, but I am, you know, very supportive of this project, and I wish them luck.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else, would anybody else like to speak to the application? All right, before we close it, I'll turn to the board to see if there's any other questions kicking around for people, on the application. Okay. Now we'll go through the, application, or go through the provision that we did in the last one. So I'm gonna closing the public, comment portion of our meeting, and we're just gonna go to board deliberations. At this point, we'll reopen it. If there's anything we need to ask about or get some feedback on, and
Question, are you?
But before I do that,
206.8? Is that what you're going through? The approval standards and criteria?
206.8, yes, precisely. Those are the bulk of them. I am looking to see if there's anything else. 206.8, yeah. So, so this is an application for a site plan review to operate a retail store on a 160 square foot structure located at map I-03 lot 1 with access from South Road to Bee Island, Maine, across the street from the Slow Bell Cafe. The applicant's retail store would operate during the summer of 2006.
26.
2026, that's what I wrote. Oh, in a spot about 60 feet from the edge of South Road, as described and depicted in the application materials dated April 13th, 2026, with additional materials provided on June 7th, 2026. And so I want to go through the findings of fact to see where we are on the different items. I'm gonna go to 206.A, utilization of site. Planning board finds that, or I guess the question is, how do we feel about whether they satisfy the question standards of this section based on the materials submitted? I think it has met the provision for a number of reasons. Proposed uses for retail stores defined in section 110. Definitions, it's located in the Island Business District, which permits a retail store subject to site plan review. The location of the structure on the property, as it's depicted, is in compliance with all the provisions of the ordinance. The size of the structure is only 160 square feet and will be removed at the end of the summer. And because of the nature of the activities of retail store, which are generally confined to the structure itself.
Is this, it's gonna be removed, Mike saying that, does it have to be, is it? I mean, that's not part of the permitting process, right? So
I'll open it back up and we'll talk to Mike about this as a second. My understanding was you were planning to remove it. I think you had said it at an earlier time and maybe I'm incorrect in making that statement.
No, it's our intention at the end of the season to sell it. To recapture some of his startup costs, because it is tuition, so it'd be nice to get that back. However, it is, as it sits right now, fully permitted as a residential use, so a non-commercial use. So if it had to revert back and stay there till September 29th or October 1st, by code, that's fine. I'm sure John would be ready for us to get out of there. If anyone's looking for a beautiful shed, it is.
here's my point is that it doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't change.
You know, that's, it may be circumstances change and just
Yeah,
say.
We're not gonna be any.
No, that's, I agree that that's not necessary. It's just bringing up what it said.
Clarification, okay, you
No, that's good.
follow the same sequence.
Okay, yeah. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor?
I move to accept,
Wait a second, and we're gonna do that.
All right,
So that was 206.8, utilization of the site.
right. Next one, 206.8B, and C, D, E, and F. I'm just gonna put them all together because they're all tied together and it has to do with for folks out there, traffic access and parking, access ways, internal vehicular circulation, parking layout, and pedestrian circulation. And I guess I'll turn this over to folks to see, we have a revised drawing of the access. The applicant indicated there's a number of spaces available in that area.
Cause it'd be nice if they were, it'd be nice to see them dedicated to this store as opposed to they're available. I'm not trying to make this process tougher, but I mean, who knows, maybe there's a tractor park there, or boat or whatever, to see. There's 16 spots, it'd be nice to see some more that were on this application dedicated to parking for the store, and I feel like that would be a reasonable condition for approval.
Paul, what is your sense?
But
I think it's essential that the parking offered by the retail store makes sense so that we don't have anybody parking on the road. And that it's clear to anybody who goes to the store that they're not to back out of parking to enter traffic. And as long as there's enough space for those type of activities to occur, I think that vehicle circulation is safe.
Do you feel like it's necessary to specify any space for any certain number as opposed to just, I don't think anybody would think that 16 spaces.
Yeah, I mean, I think if there was like 5 or 6, it would be nice to see that dedicated to the location, as people knew that there's parking for there, not storing boats or whatever, tractors.
Everything like with one handicap and 4 non.
I think that's reasonable, I mean, if there's 16 spaces, it's always 12.
Yeah, 4 more is fine, and they may be occupied with bikes and golf carts.
Right, bikes, not going to carts and
The
sort.
white vans, they could be
It
occupied. by-
could be, if there's something going on in the slow belt during the day, band playing, and it could be pretty busy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, we don't want people backing up out onto the street, is particular, if there's more than one car, especially. If there's more than one car, and we don't want people parking on the street there as a rule, because it'll hurt the sight lines as people try to exit there, so. I guess I'll turn to Mike, with a total of 5 spaces that make sense to you?
Yes.
Are you comfortable that you'll be able to provide that in that space?
absolutely, and the parking area that is drawn, even though there's only one parking space identified. If you look at the overall parking area, that is enough for 5. More than 5, so let's just cap it at 5.
Yes,
So we need to say there's only one spot. That is there's room to back up. And turn out so you pull out facing forward, nobody's backing onto the street.
Right, I think you're showing 30 feet on the drawing, I think of that space is typically a little bit more than 30 feet to have enough space to back up and turn around. Is there
Yeah,
sufficient space available?
That was a question on the aisle width. So the aisle width is 2-way, there really is no, when you're driving up and turning into a parking spot. There's nobody coming this way, right? So that's
Yes,
not the necessary for the 2 aisle width.
right,
So a parking spot is 18 feet deep, 9 feet wide. For the ADA compliant, it's 18 by 18, which is what we had there.
right.
So there's plenty of room for one car to back out and turn, and each car to back out, so they're driving straight out.
Okay. So I'd suggest that we find that they've satisfied the standards of those sections B, 206.8 B, C, D, E, and F. On condition that the applicant provide a total of 5 parking spaces, with one of those spaces being handicap parking space. And that the depth of the parking area is sufficient to allow for all the cars in those spaces to back out of the spaces and exit onto South Road, driving over.
I'd move to accept the finding of fact, 206, B, C, D, E, and F.
Paul,
I will second that.
any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Section 2.68 G, stormwater management. I suggest we find that the applicants met this this standard but, I think that given the size of the structure, the fact that it's, going to be placed on surfaces that are pervious to water, that, we waive this condition or this, provision.
I move to accept findings of fact 206.4G.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Section 206.8H erosion control. It's for the same reasons that I just mentioned for section 206.8G stormwater management. I say that the applicant, we can waive this provision.
I move to accept the findings of fact 206.8H.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Section 206.8I water supply, I'd say that the applicant satisfied the standards of this section based on the fact that the structure and the use will not be hooked up to the water supply, but we'd be using the existing water supply and septic system across the street.
Jay.
Yeah, we can say I and J, because they're both two sides of the
One's
same
water,
coin.
one's.
One's water and one's sewage. So for 206.8I and 206.8J sewage, for the same reason, find that they've met those standards because they're not gonna be hooked up to water. And there'll only be a small amount of water and sewage used for the employees who would be perhaps using the facilities.
Correct, it's not relative to the storm.
Right.
So,
I move to accept findings of fact 206.8 I and J.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 206.8K, adequate electric service to meet the needs of the project. I'd say that the applicants satisfied that on condition that the CEO receive whatever documentation is needed from the state regarding the newly installed electrical service.
I move to accept 206.8 K.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Right, groundwater protection. Actually, it should have, for this 206.8L groundwater protection, I think for the same reasons that we discussed before for 206.8I and J, because it's not gonna be hooked up to any water, this is not an issue for this provision.
I move to accept 206.8L.
I'll second that.
Right, any discussion? All those in favor? Section 206.8M water quality, should have just done this again, for the same reasons we just cited for L and for I and for J, because it's not gonna be any actual water service to the location, because any temporary unit will be over at the, I move that the applicant satisfy this provision.
Second.
Second.
I guess I would there, any discussion, all those in favor? All right, the 206.8N capacity applicant, I find that the applicant has met the standards of the section based on the fact that they, among other things, already placed a structure on the site and have done a number of other. Yeah,
I move to approve 206.8N.
Second.
any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? 206.80, historic and archaeological resources, I'd say that the applicant satisfied the standards, based on the material submitted, there's no evidence that any part of this project contains any historic or archaeological resources.
There isn't?
I move to accept 206.80.
I'm sorry, you're gonna.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, any discussion? In favor? Floodplain, 206.8 P, I'd say that they've met the standard to this because it's not located in the floodplain.
I move to accept findings of fact 206.8 B.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 206.8 Q, exterior lighting, I'd say, that this is not an issue because they indicated that there won't be any exterior lighting on the structure.
Is that, did they?
I think in the application, I thought maybe,
There are 2 lights on the structure, but they're not gonna be used because we're open from 10 to 4:30. Daylight hours, but they are,
okay, so there are lighting, but it won't be, there won't be used.
right. But it is by code, state electrical permit.
I seem to recall at the pre-application hearing, you mentioned that there wouldn't be any lighting.
Right.
You guys will be restocking all night long, so don't worry.
Okay, so what I'd say then is that, you know, the based on the sort of submitted in particular is a statement that there will not be any exterior lighting used on the structure as it will only be operating during daylight hours.
Yes.
Yeah, I move to accept 206.8 Q.
I'll second that.
Right, any discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Section 206.8 R, buffering, I'd say that we can, that met the standards of the section based on the materials submitted, specifically that the structure is located well into the property and, that there will not be storing any waste on the property and, that the structure itself is, pleasant looking structure.
I move to accept findings of fact 206.8 R.
Second that.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
206.8 S noise, I believe that they satisfy the standards based on the material submitted and the use, and the condition that, or the assertion that the store would only be open from 10 AM to 4:30 PM.
I move to accept 206.8 S.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor? Section 206.8 T, storage of materials. I'd say that they satisfy the standards in section based on the fact that they've indicated that they would store all waste in their cars and transport them off site at the end of the day, and all the rest of the materials would be stored inside the structure.
Yeah, I could just see, you were saying it'd just be cardboard waste, but it could be like food going bad and stuff, if, you know, that you'd have to take off.
I hope not, but yeah, it could.
Move to accept 206.8 T.
Second.
Any discussion? Or all those in favor? Section 206.8 U, landscaping, I propose that they qualify for waiver of this standard. And yeah, and in any case, it's a nice looking shed.
I move to accept findings of fact 206.8 U.
Second that.
For discussion, all those in favor? Section 206.8 V, building and parking placement,
It is.
yeah, I mean, this section doesn't apply, we've looked at this before, this section really applies to much larger projects like malls with internal vehicle circulation, and it's really inapplicable to this project.
I move to accept 206.8B.
Second,
Any discussion? All those in favor? And so the decision, I'd say, oh, well, you know, I have that as I'm thinking as just a condition.
that's stuff.
Yep. But yeah, I agree. So I'd say that, pursuant to 206.6E6, we, having received and held a public hearing on temporary retail store proposed by Mike McKee. Planning board should approve the application for a temporary retail store dated April 16, 2026, as amended by documents provided on June 7, 2026. For a 10 by 16 foot structure on South Road, Speak Island, Maine, on property located as map I-01 lot 1, subject to the following conditions. That prior to the intended use, the CEO shall have issued a certificate of occupancy for use as a retail store. I guess the permitted hours of operation would be 10 to 4:30 as indicated earlier. Oh, yeah, shoot.
If they want flexibility, stay open until 5. Is that allowed? Or?
Well, you know, if I need to, I mean, I guess,
It's still all daylight hours.
yeah, I would say, why don't we just say, we could say permitted hours of operation daily or between 9 and 5. I think that seems
Is
like.
that really our purview, like?
Well, I mean, well, cause, yeah, it is kind of, we have to know when the hours are operating, but we could be
I'd
flexible.
rather broaden it now.
Yeah, I agree.
If they're comfortable with 9 to 5. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that, I mean, that's fine. I'm just
You
trying
can
to,
post whatever you want, if you decide to change or shift from one end side or the other.
that the, and that the, CEO receive a certificate of compliance from the fire chief, for the structure. Which is, already, the inspection, I believe, has already happened. And I think, that's all I've got.
In the parking spots,
What was that?
in the parking spots, right?
Well, okay, we could make that a condition. I thought
Have you read the details in the parking and contain the 4+1?
we contain that, but we could make it simply that they comply with the provisions with approval under section 206.8
The ones you like together.
B, C, D, E, and F. There's that condition, the condition tree. Added that, okay, we can put that. So, let me go through it again, so we'd approve this on the following conditions that, that the parking area, comply with the conditions contained in the approval under section 206.8B, C, D, E, and F. 2, that prior to intended use as a retail store, the CEO shall have issued a certificate of occupancy. 3, that the permitted hours of operation daily are between 9 and 5 p.m. And 4, that the CEO receive a certificate of compliance from the fire chief for the structure.
Sounds good. I move to accept.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
No,
All those in favor? And we're done.
good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for And with that. I'm all set with it. I mean,
Last year on June.
I think everybody had to say.
Yeah. All right, you wanna move to, well, yeah. Move to. All right.